That is right, Don. What has been described as one of the most prolific drug trafficking organizations in Kensington has now been eliminated, according to the FBI.
Have you ever thought that the greatest danger doesn't come from the border, but is sitting right inside the United States Congress? 4 hours, 52 minutes in the morning in Washington, D.C., a senior aide to the Speaker of the House was handcuffed amid 9.2 kilograms of methamphetamine, $1.2 million in counterfeit money, and 18 gold bars hidden inside the wall. In just a few hours, the entire United States discovered a massive counterfeit money production network. Goods trafficking and illegal immigration that had infiltrated deep into the government for 3 whole years without anyone knowing. This is no longer ordinary crime, this is systematic infiltration. Are you ready to see how deeply the truth has been hidden? Watch until the very end to find out just how far it goes. Good morning. Today, a new operation was officially launched. It's called America Free from Fentanyl. This is the official response of the Drug Enforcement Administration under the Trump administration to the war on fentanyl. 4 hours, 52 minutes in the morning. The capital, Washington, D.C. 9.2 kilograms of product. $1.2 million in counterfeit cash. A trusted aide arrested an insider network inside Congress. Let me show you. There is no doubt that these smugglers, these designated foreign terrorist elements, targeting us at 4 hours 52 minutes in the morning, Washington, D.C. The city was asleep when an unmarked federal convoy rolled into the Capitol. Armed FBI and ICE teams moved silently through the dark corridors of the House Office Wing. Their target was the private office of the Speaker's senior aide, Rebecca Monroe. Monroe was trusted. She controlled schedules, budgets, visitor access. She held the keys, the codes, and the clearances. No one imagined anything unusual behind her door. When the agents breached the reinforced lock, the shock was instant. Inside a concealed wall safe were 9.2 kilograms of methamphetamine sealed in diplomatic-style pouches. Next to them sat 3 unregistered firearms and 18 gold bars stacked like bricks. Hidden ledgers tucked beneath calendars. Travel forms stamped at odd hours. Nothing in that room belonged to the government. It wasn't an office. It was a command center. Drop an alarm comment to wake the public up. Hit like. More people need to see this. We are going to deliver the safest nation this country has ever seen under President Trump's leadership right here. And that's exactly what we did today with massive resolve in a case of enormous public importance. As dawn broke over Washington, the Capitol was no longer calm. Inside the building, investigators moved from room to room like a silent swarm. Every desk was cleared. Every drawer was opened. Every digital file bearing Rebecca Monroe's name was copied and secured. They were no longer searching for contraband. They were hunting the machinery behind her. What they uncovered wasn't chaos. It was precision. For 3 years, Rebecca Monroe had been invisible in plain sight. She greeted visitors, handled schedules, managed budgets. She was polite, hardworking, and always present. But behind the smile, she controlled something far more dangerous than anyone imagined. Access, information, and movement. Investigators began tracing her connections. 4 senior aides visited her office after the building was closed. 11 outside consultants slipped through the side entrance, never appearing on the visitor log. 3 different drivers held special permits for the restricted underground parking. 2 security officers had been quietly transferred from other agencies without explanation. None of this was normal. As the investigation widened, the trail grew darker. Monroe's associates were not ordinary staff. Many were ex-convicts, fugitives, or men who didn't exist in any public record. They moved without phones. They used rental cars paid for by shell companies. They only worked at night. When people refused to cooperate, consequences followed. A shop owner in Chicago was hit. A warehouse supervisor in Kentucky was hit. A mechanic in Virginia vanished. Fear created silence. Silence created compliance. The numbers told the rest. In the 3 years Monroe held the position, illegal immigration through her districts rose more than 160%. Serious incidents doubled, overdoses tripled. A network was spreading across the map and no one saw it forming. Methamphetamine has destroyed families. It has ruined lives. People overdose and die, and it happens every single day. Then the auditors found something else. Behind the safe in Monroe's office was a thin folder tied to budget files. It held delivery forms, shipping codes, and invoices for industrial ink laser printers, specialty paper, and cutting blades. None of these items belonged to congressional work, yet every invoice carried the same signature, Rebecca Monroe. Following the money led to a chain of warehouses in Chicago, Kentucky, Virginia, and Georgia. On paper, they processed fruit and packaging. In reality, trucks from the Mexico border arrived every 2 weeks carrying pallets far too heavy to be food. The pallets weren't fruit, they were cash. Inside the buildings were industrial printers under tarps, cutting machines running at night, and racks covered with drying sheets. Federal analysts estimate between $800,000 and $1.2 million in counterfeit U.S. currency was produced daily. The bills were clean enough to move through casinos and banks without a second glance. Couriers delivered envelopes by bus, train, and rideshare. A single courier could move $50,000 in just 1 week. This wasn't a criminal gang, this was a shadow corporation, profitable, disciplined, invisible. And at the center of it all was a woman smiling at everyone in the halls of Congress. This isn't corruption, this is infiltration. Type in if you feel the threat. Share this. America needs to know. At 4:32 in the morning, inside the Situation Room, federal leaders stood around a digital map glowing with red dots, warehouses, truck depots, and processing sites all linked to the hidden network. The FBI director listened, then gave the only order. We hit every target at once. No warning, no escape. Arrest if possible. Contain the threat. No one argued. The decision was final. Minutes later, Operation Red Meridian went live. Helicopters lifted into the darkness. Armored vehicles rolled. Snipers took positions in Chicago, Kentucky, Richmond, and Louisville. Quiet streets hid the coming storm. At 4:58 in the morning in a Chicago industrial district, federal teams moved in on a refrigerated truck facility registered as a fruit distribution company. Inside was freezing cold engines idling and fog rolling around towering rows of pallets. The first shots came from deep inside the warehouse. Flashbangs answered, lighting the aisles with white blasts and sending echoes ricocheting off the overhead steel beams. A forklift charged the entry team in an attempt to block them, but a sniper outside fired once, shredding the front tire and sending the machine spinning sideways until it crashed to a halt. In Kentucky, agents breached a building marked as a fruit processing plant. Instead of produce, they found long tables covered with freshly cut sheets and specialized printers hidden under tarps. The heavy smell of ink filled the air. Workers tried scrambling into ceiling vents when they heard boots on the floor, but were yanked down fast and restrained. The room was packed with drying racks covered in counterfeit bills that looked real enough to fool most banks on a quick pass. Richmond proved the deadliest sight. A warehouse near the rail yard erupted in gunfire the moment agents breached the door. Rounds slammed into shields, sparks flew off metal walls, and a grenade rolled across the concrete floor until a quick boot kicked it behind a heavy crate just seconds before it detonated. When the smoke cleared, armed men lay face down and the printers kept running like nothing had happened. In Louisville, a convoy of vans tried to escape down a side street, but U.S. Marshals boxed both ends with armored SUVs. Drivers floored it, engines roaring and tires screeching. Yet within 30 seconds, every door was open. Weapons were dropped and suspects were face down on the pavement in handcuffs. As dawn rose, 4 cities were sealed. Evidence trucks filled with pallets of counterfeit cash printing equipment, chemicals, burner phones, and hard drives. The radio carried only one message. Phase 1 successful. Phase 2 incoming. What you're about to see next looks like a battlefield. Type ready in the comments. As the sun rose over 4 cities, the scene looked almost calm from a distance. Snow on rooftops, steam from vents, the soft glow of morning traffic. Yet beneath that surface, entire districts had been sealed under federal control. The streets were blocked by armored vehicles. Helicopters hovered low over industrial roofs. Evidence teams in white suits moved between buildings carrying sealed bins and digital gear. Phase 1 of the raid was over. Phase 2 analysis had begun. Inside a repurposed aircraft hangar on the edge of Chicago, federal agents built a command center. Truck after truck pulled into the bay, unloading pallets, boxes, and plastic tubs packed with evidence. Tables stretched across the vast floor. On them sat industrial printers, cutters, vacuum sealers, stacks of specialty paper, and thousands of counterfeit bills drying on racks. If one congressional aide could hide 9.2 kilograms of methamphetamine inside the wall for 3 years, how many others do you think are doing the exact same thing right now? There were drums of chemicals stamped with Mexican export codes. There were tools, templates, routers, encrypted phones, and laptops still logged into communication channels. The sheer volume shocked even the most seasoned investigators. This wasn't the scraps of some small-time crew. It looked like the guts of a factory running at full throttle. Analysts began sorting the evidence. One team focused on the digital material. They dumped phones, decrypted messages, and rebuilt network traffic from the routers and hard drives. A second team pored over financial records, receipts, ledgers, and handwritten notebooks filled with dates, initials, and quantities. The numbers were staggering. The counterfeit chain had been moving more than $1 million every single day through small banks, cash businesses, casinos, and informal couriers. Most transactions stayed under reporting thresholds to avoid detection. A third team dug into logistics. The trucks that were supposedly hauling fruit had been tracked via license plate readers and weigh stations. Some had crossed the Mexico border dozens of times. Others had changed ownership repeatedly through shell companies with fake managers. Yet every route pointed back to the same cluster of facilities hit in the raids. What unsettled the investigators the most was the level of organization. Every job was assigned. Every shift was scheduled. There was no randomness. The network operated like a corporation with departments: production, distribution, security, transportation, finance, and compliance. And at the very top of that corporate pyramid was not some nameless boss in the shadows. It was the woman whose desk sat inside the House of Representatives. In the weeks that followed, the team worked through thousands of files. There were immigration records, travel logs, hotel receipts, lease agreements, and payroll forms. Many of the names on the paperwork did not belong to U.S. citizens. Some of the individuals tracked had served prison time abroad. Others were fugitives who had vanished from foreign databases. Yet all of them had pay stubs or contracts approved by the exact same office in Washington. As more connections were made, the picture sharpened. Monroe's counterfeiting operation was only one layer. Beneath it lay a trafficking pipeline for product, a system for illegal entry, and a protection network supplied by compromised officials. Everything intersected. Everything turned a profit. Federal prosecutors who once expected a routine criminal case now realized they were facing something far more dangerous. This wasn't a cartel operation working from outside the country. This was a corporate machine running inside America, woven into the infrastructure moving product and money under the cover of legitimacy. The raids had stopped the production line, but they hadn't answered the biggest question yet. Who else is still involved? As weeks passed, the command center inside the hangar grew into something that looked like a forensic marketplace. Every table, every case file, every phone, every stack of counterfeit cash was a clue. Agents walked aisles of evidence surrounded by machines wrapped in gold evidence tags and sealed bins marked with chain of custody labels. The scale was overwhelming. The deeper they dug, the more they realized what had been operating on American soil wasn't accidental or random. It was engineered. A joint briefing was scheduled for federal prosecutors, economic advisors, and representatives from Treasury. Across the long wall, analysts projected the graphs. The lines were not subtle. They spiked hard over short periods. Overdoses, serious incidents, immigration surges, cash anomalies, counterfeit detections. Every line began climbing the moment Rebecca Monroe took her position. It wasn't coincidence, it was causation. A senior Treasury official spoke first. His voice was steady, but every word carried weight. He explained that the counterfeit operation didn't just flood cities with fake money. It was poisoning the banking system. Small banks had unwittingly accepted counterfeit bills in deposits casinos, and cash service businesses had passed them on. As those bills moved into larger banks, they blended with genuine currency. The problem wasn't limited to criminal profits. It was systemic risk. With every $1 million in counterfeit circulating, he said, pointing at the chart, the economic damage could reach 20 to 30 million. And if this network had been allowed to run for 2 or 3 more years, the losses could hit billions, not millions, billions. Silence followed. The numbers weren't abstract. They represented trust, confidence, and stability. When banks can no longer guarantee the value of physical cash, the economy starts to shake. Merchants stop accepting cash. Depositors grow nervous. Investors move money. It only takes a small crack for fear to spread. The room didn't need a history lesson. Many nations have collapsed from currency failure before, but America had never faced that threat from within its own government offices. At first, investigators treated the network as mere smuggling and corruption. Now they understood the true nature, a silent financial war designed to destabilize society from the inside. The human toll was undeniable: overdose deaths. Tripled violence exploded once peaceful neighborhoods drowned in looting and fear. Phase 1 had been dismantled, but Phase 2, the hunt for every remaining piece, was only beginning. The massive cartel network was badly wounded, yet not dead. Sponsors, partners, and complicit officials still lurked in the shadows. "We've stopped the bleeding," a prosecutor whispered, "but we haven't found the source." Outside, snow fell quietly, yet peace had not returned. In the final week of the campaign, the Hangar had become a war room, a gigantic map of the United States on the wall exploding with colored pins, red strings, and timelines. What began as isolated dots, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Kentucky, Richmond, Louisville, quickly revealed a deliberate design. The routes followed state lines, distribution hubs hugged rail yards, cash drop points clustered near banks and casinos. Everything was positioned for maximum efficiency and minimum oversight. Less like a criminal gang, more like hidden infrastructure. Digging deeper, agents uncovered dozens of new names: illegal foreign nationals, suddenly wealthy, clean record Americans, warehouse owners, shift supervisors, and bank tellers who never asked questions. The network was not random. It had been systematically built. None of them ever showed up at Monroe's office. Yet every single one had touched a piece of the machine. A realization spread through the room. Monroe hadn't built this alone. She had plugged into something that was already moving. Her office was the gateway, not the architect. The corporate structure ran deeper than anyone had assumed. A private briefing was held at the White House. The president, the attorney general, and directors from the FBI, ICE, and DEA stood around the same digital map that had guided the raids. They weren't talking about victory. They were talking about risk. Whenever a network this size collapses, smaller predators rise. Power never tolerates a vacuum. Money doesn't sit still. The decision was unanimous. Federal units would stay in place. Task forces would be embedded permanently. The operation wasn't over. It had simply changed shape. As the meeting ended, the president looked at the map one last time. Red markers covered the board like a warning. "We shut down the factory," he said quietly. "But we haven't shut down the idea." Outside the windows, Washington looked calm, but everyone in the room knew the truth. The threat had been exposed, not eliminated. The war would continue, not in the shadows anymore, but in broad daylight. The sun rose over Washington, but there was no sense of relief. The convoys were gone. The helicopters were silent. Yet every agent knew the truth. The threat was still moving. One counterfeit factory could be shut down. The greatest lesson from this entire affair for every single one of us is, the most dangerous enemy is not always outside the borders. It can be the person wearing a government badge, smiling and greeting you every morning in the corridors of power. A single individual in the right position can swing the door wide open for an entire criminal network to operate for years without anyone suspecting a thing. Always question what seems too perfect, too peaceful, too normal. The vigilance of every citizen is the final line of defense that protects this country. Never trust blindly just because someone is one of ours in government. National security begins with your own eyes. From a small office inside Congress, a network nearly shook the entire American economy and national security using nothing but counterfeit money product and betrayal. Rebecca Monroe was only the door. Behind her still stand hundreds of other names that have yet to be exposed. Today we stopped the production line, but the idea of exploiting America from within is far from dead. Do you think this network has been completely dismantled, or is this just the tip of the iceberg? Drop your comment below right now. How far do you believe it has spread, and what exactly does the government need to do next to seal these vulnerabilities for good? Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe so you never miss the next truth. America first begins with our own vigilance.